Well, that intro was supposed to run a little longer, but here we are. So, welcome, friends, to our next episode in our amazing deconditioning series. So, today we are going to be exploring breath work and how we can use breath work to help us in our deconditioning process. But before we can, learn what breath work is and have a little sample of our guest Effie's breathwork magic, we are going to bring you this week's transit forecast. So, without further ado, let's bring out our weather reporters, Danny and Moni. Hopefully, we're ready to tag out. Yeah, we got the thumbs up. Here we go.
Hello, hello. Where's my Danny?
I was here a second ago.
There he is. Hi, Danny.
Hey, you. I like this. The weather reporters.
I know, right? Yeah, the neutrino meteorologist, as
Yeah.
Chris called us, and I loved that.
So what is it? It's 25 and 46, right?
No, it's 57 and 51.
No way.
Yeah.
Did
No,
we do
25,
25?
46 is over the autumnal equinox.
Oh yeah, we already done
But
that.
that's the nodes we're going to be going in December.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's what you're thinking of. I was like, I know where your brain is going. Yeah, so from the 8th to the 13th, the sun is in 57 and the earth is in gate 51. So here we see it. So Danny, have you noticed anything new?
That I'm connected on both ends.
You are, but with our like pretty graphics.
Oh, I apologize. I like the
No,
Earth
no,
thing. I like the
yeah,
Earth thing. I like the way the numbers sort of point at it.
yeah. So
It's
Chris has revamped our transit graphics.
it's an amazing like tone to it all too. I like it. Not
Yeah,
to mention the quarters are around the outside.
exactly.
Yeah.
He added the quarters, and we have like the zodiac stuff. We got the sun and the earth. We got all sorts of good stuff going on in here. So yeah, you can see it as we're moving around our walk around the wheel with the sun in 57, the earth in gate 51. The sun is the splenic gate, and we're going to be in like in a line of splenic gates coming up as I've been like working ahead on the transit. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see. Like that's very interesting at this time of a year there's almost this like, hey, all your health things get in order. Like, I don't know, is it like a pre-winter thing? Do you know anything about that?
Well, I mean, here it is. This is when normally we would harvest. Our love of the body would normally come out because we're working with it. So, especially in the generated capacity. And 46 is that. Notice all the spleen gates line up right in a row,
Mm-hmm.
right after gate 40. So it comes the love of the body, right? A part of the vessel of love, and suddenly the love of the body is followed by all the spleen gates. I just find that amazing.
Oh,
Every one
I
of them is there.
I didn't put that together. That's really interesting. So just to like further explain, so if we look on the right where it says the sun in 57 and it's pointing on the wheel, and if you go down a couple, there's gate 46. And so
Yep.
what Danny's saying is that gate 46 is the love of the body. So the sun hits this like energy of like loving the body and the physicality of being. And then the following gates, the 18, the 48, the 57, next week with the 32, then that's all splenic gates to hit. That's a
Yep.
very interesting thing to notice about the
And
wheel.
all they're all here. All seven splenic gates are in this one section of the wheel. This is about duality. This is an interesting time. Our harvesting is also the time um when we would be dualist. The duality is about getting together. It's about getting together. We're getting together all the time, but this is very much about getting together. We harvest, we feed, we get together, we impregnate, and we give birth in spring, basically. I mean, and we take care of ourselves. The spleen keeps us safe, right? It keeps us alive moment to moment. So,
Yeah, it feels almost like a pre-winter preparation. Like, hey, take care of yourself so you can like make it through the challenging time.
it's so true. And now that I think about it, this wheel is set up for the northern hemisphere
Mm-hmm.
because everything would be exactly opposite in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's like
Yep.
when you have like Australian like Christmas and it's like everyone's partying on the beach with like
Yep.
Santa hats on, you know. So fun time. So the sun in gate 57, it is the gate, it's the gentle, and it is the gate of intuitive insight. It's the extraordinary power of clarity. And it's a splenic gate. and it's part of the individual circuitry. And so this is really interesting because this whole little section, like most of the gates that we go through have like one gate channel that they make up. And you're like, oh, cool, nice and clean. So when we get to like 57, it's like the 57, the 34, the 10, and the 20 have this whole like snaky conversation happening with like different specific subcircuits. So it's individual circuitry, and then of the integration subcircuit, which if the individual is about empowerment, the integration is about self-empowerment, and we're going to be doing a circuitry study coming soon. So we'll get back to you on that one. But for the integration channels, it is gate 34, which is the gate of power, and the 5730 make up the channel of power. And then gate 10 is correct behavior. So the 5710 makes up the channel of perfected form. Right. So it's like intuitive knowing and power behind it with the 34, and with the 10, it's about this intuitive knowing and perfected behavior and expression of behavior. And then we switch over to gate 20, which is part of the individual circuitry, but specifically the knowing circuit. And gate 20 is this now. It's now and now and now. So the 5720 is this like intuitive knowing in the now, and it's called the channel of the brainwave. So that was a whole lot.
Yeah, it was a whole lot. Actually, you did stunningly on it. I've been assigning different possible meanings to this channel of the brainwave, and it still all comes back to this 5720 becomes this shocking, penetrating. This is the cross of penetration, is it not?
Yeah, that will be the first one when we get to those.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I got
No, you're
ahead.
good.
It's the penetrating awareness, the potential for incredible clarity, penetratingly aware in the now as a potential. And that penetratingly aware is like down to, I see the dice rolling onto the number I want or not, without knowing you see it, type thing,
Oh, interesting.
It's a communion we have with it, but we can't know what it does because it's so lightning fast. We can never know, right? I mean, all the spleen people say, I don't know what the hell. I was turning left and then suddenly I turned right,
That spontaneous nature of it. Yeah,
spontaneous.
yeah. Gate 57. It's the capacity to penetrate one's core in the now. It's deep inner attunement to sound. So the 57 has this relationship to sound that's constantly alert to vibrations coming from your physical, emotional, and psychic environment, and it's intuitively attuned to the right ear specifically. Yeah, it's alert and focused in the now.
And that's all it is. It's all it is. And its melancholy shows up as the melancholy about tomorrow.
Yes, the
Yeah.
fear of tomorrow, right? So that's a fun thing to like teach our viewers is that every splenic gate has an associated fear with it, right? Because the spleen is about keeping the body safe. So each splenic gate has an associated fear with it. So the 57 is this fear of the now, fear of the future, what is coming, and this kind of nervousness about that.
And then melancholy is basically the same. It's because all individual circuits, gates have a melancholy. And the melancholy is the sadness that tomorrow isn't going to be any good. So it's the fear of what will be tomorrow, and mixed with tomorrow won't be good enough. My future doesn't look good. This gate is looking into the immediate future. So it's an immediate fear about immediately tomorrow.
It's very existential.
Yeah, so the brain is talking about tomorrow and next week and all this stuff, but the spleen's fear is actually immediately tomorrow. It's tomorrow is like a minute from now, or 5 minutes, or 10 minutes from now.
It's anything that is to come, that is the unknown, and it's big and scary.
Right, exactly. And then this gate drives intelligence. This drove our first survival intelligence that got us standing upright. It was this integration circuitry. 51 shock to the life. The mutation channel basically sat there as capacity to mutate, but the integration circuitry said, we'll make sure you live while all of that's happening.
Oh, it's so cool to start understanding like how these different pieces link together. And I know, especially anyone who's like newer into human design, it can seem so overwhelming. And I know when I first began, it was like, what is this? This is so much. And it's like, I promise you, just take it bit by bit and let a little bit absorb and a little bit absorb. And like, it then becomes really shocking as the puzzle pieces start to click into place. And like, you get into it like a year, 2, 3, and all of a sudden you just know these things like off the back of your head. So it's always fun, like adding more puzzle pieces to the mix.
It's so good. So good. Next, my favorite.
I know, right? I like this one. This kind of has a special place in my heart as it's part of my one channel. So the Earth is in gate 51 this week, and gate 51 is the arousing. It is the gate of shock. It is the ability to respond to disorder and shock through recognition and adaptation. And it is part of the ego or the will center. The ego, the will, the heart center, you kind of hear a few of them, but they're all referring to that little triangle towards the right. It is individual, just as the previous one. So individual, think empowerment. And then as part is specifically the centering sub-circuit of individual circuitry. So gate 51 links up with gate 25, which is innocence and also just love of the spirit, right? And the 5125 is this channel of initiation, like close to my own heart, literally. So gate 51 is the energy for individual initiative. It is backed by the ego's will and courage, embodying the power to compete, driving you to be one step ahead of everybody and to risk going where no one has gone to find or create a place for yourself. It is designed to shock and withstand shock, to move others out of complacency and direct them towards personal transcendence and self-love.
Well, it really is, because 25 is the gate of innocence. It points towards innocence. And I think this is the reason I thought 25 was in the sky, because I had so much 51 on the brain. And to me, 51 means 5125. I have the 25.
The 25 was with Neptune, but Neptune just went retrograde and back into 36.
Oh, great.
So it was there.
Back in 36, I thought we got done with that.
I thought so too, but no, it totally popped back there. But those are my notes. So I'm like, whatever, old hat.
I can't wait to tell Tressa. So this 25 of innocence takes the warrior spirit, the ego, the one individual gate in the ego, because the rest of the ego is all about duty and supplying the tribe and loyalty and sensitivity and support and doing the work and keeping your word. And 51 can keep its word. It's just that it might not be the word that everyone else wanted it to keep.
It's the word for itself, right?
Word
just
for
to like,
itself.
yeah, just to like explain
Warrior's word, really, essentially, or yeah. We should
Well,
pick a
just to-
different word from warrior, but yeah.
Yeah, just to explain this a little more thoroughly, right? So if we're looking at the will center, that little triangle that's lit up on the right, then the 51 is individual. But if you look, the 26, the 40, and the 21 are all tribal. So 3 out of the 4 will center gates are tribal will. It is the willpower for the tribe. And then the 51 is its own little thing where it's like shocked out of the tribe to go in this new direction. So it's like willpower to go in a new direction, and not necessarily what the tribe wants, but what that individual needs to go and explore on their own. And then if it's worthwhile, then the tribe is like, hey, you know something, show us the new direction.
They're there to bring mutation into the tribe such that it cannot stagnate. So, I mean, there's only 4, there's only 4 gates. And so 1/4 of the ego energy guarantees the ego does not actually stagnate. It can't. It's got the individual circuitry coming into it, messing it all up. The thing about the individuality and the ego is, because of this relationship, the tribe always will put up with the individual, as long as the individual can keep with a certain amount of decorum and loyalty, and then they will let it be
Be your
different.
weird little self. That's
right,
cool.
because
As long as you
everyone
still
else
know
is a
where you
weird little
exist.
self. Basically, the tribe wants to support that. They just can't endow it publicly and politically, because everyone's got to sort of fit in line more so than not. But collective never will allow that. Collective and the individual circuitry just like
Flash.
well, the collective circuitry just screeches at the individual circuitry, because it's always changing things.
And the collective needs it to be good for everyone and the masses. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm really excited as we're going to get into like our circuitry study, because I think that's going to put a lot of puzzle pieces back into place for people.
Going to put them all in place. Absolutely.
Fun. All right, ready to move on?
Yep.
All right, fantastic. So incarnation crosses for this week. So Danny, you're correct. First up, we have the right angle cross of penetration. And these are highly intuitive, aware people capable of discerning penetration, a clarity that guides ambition with a competitive edge toward beginning something new in order to assuage our fears for tomorrow.
It's perfect. I almost can't even add anything to that. It's actually perfect.
Oh, yeah,
I
no.
mean, it's good enough. I'd need the being in front of me to talk through their specific version of how the cross plays out, but it's a beautiful cross. And I believe, let's see, 57 21. What else is part of penetration?
I'm looking it up right now. And I'm always looking in the definitive book of human design. For anyone curious, this is your human design Bible with the most like precise language. So let's see what we can find for this quarter of penetration.
It's pissing me off. I should know this off the top of my head, and I'm drawing a blank.
It'll pop into your head in a minute.
Yeah.
It is the 57, 51, the 53, and the 54. We got a lot of 50s.
Right. So 53 and 54 are always keeping the thing driven and hungry. Driven and hungry. Hungry to start and have an experience, driven to start and have it be something good for the tribe, essentially. So lots of drive to share, drive to do, drive to support, being driven generally. But that's a lot of individualism inside this arm of this turns into Ra's cross later on down the road.
The clarion.
Yep.
Well, so next up, we have the juxtaposition cross of intuition. These are deeply profound and inspiring people. They break you open with their intuition, detail, and knowing, shocking, so that you can receive the message.
I can only imagine. I don't think I've known anybody yet with this because the juxtaposition crosses are profoundly fixed in their nature, profoundly, and they're supposed to be. So this intuition is going to be, this person always has a sudden knowing that might get them in trouble if they speak it all the time, because it's not always well thought out, but it's suddenly there.
Well, yeah, anything shocking. That's anything with the 51 is just, it's going to shock people. And like my 51, it's in my Jupiter on my body side, so I don't realize it, but like my body is just going to do stuff that is going to be physically shocking towards people. And I'm always like, huh, what, who, but it is going to be this crazy thing. I mean, as we get to the hexagrams, it's thunder over thunder. So it is this like shocking electricity out of nowhere that's just going to like throw people off.
Thunder over and under is what I remember hearing that do it as. And then this left angle cross of the clarion, I love this. This is Ra. Intuitive people expect it. This isn't Ra. Ra would be 6 months later when the 51's in the sky, but intuitive
a different
people,
order of the number, but of the same cross.
Yep.
Yeah.
Expect it to carry essential inspired information which others need or want to hear, who need to be sought out and even pressured to speak. Basically, the clarion is there to trumpet the news, and they're there to basically breathe life into it, to penetrate life into it in a way that shocks it alive, like Frankenstein on top of the thing, waiting for the lightning to hit. That's what the clarion brings to life, and then the people need to hear Ra was a clarion.
Yeah, to spread the word.
Yep. And it doesn't matter if you're not a clarion, you can still trumpet the news because the energy of the clarion is in the world.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, finally, recap, right? It's October 8th to the 13th. We're going to check out our hexagram. So the sun is in 57. It is this intuitive insight, and it's wind over wind, which is very interesting because it is just something that's floating through and coming in. All right, you ready for the imagery?
Yeah.
All right. Wind begets wind. Movement creates movement, and the influence penetrates everywhere. This is a time to use your own inner seal of office to translate what moves you inwardly into your influence in the world. When a noble one receives a mandate, she conveys it onward by sending out orders, so her indirect influence reaches further than direct action ever could.
Penetrating into the future, penetrating beyond the known, penetrating beyond the veil. And what they just said was pushing forward beyond your even known sphere.
And the subtle influence, like that's what's very interesting too. And it's interesting because the noble,
the gate, the gentle.
Yeah, that gentle and that very like feminine way, right? Because like in this book, it'll say like the noble one, and it'll kind of switch if it's like male or female. So it's kind of interesting that like this time it was like the noble one is a female, right?
Yeah.
Conveying onward by like sending out orders, right? But in this indirect influence way, right? This gentle, this wind over wind that's going to have a stronger, like long-term influence and impact than just like rushing in and trying to make something happen.
As the wind keeps blowing, the effects become cumulative. As the awake being keeps paying attention to their penetrating awareness, they learn to doubt it less, and those effects become accumulative as well, in the good way. It's just scary because it's so right now. It's like, I don't know if that was me, you know. I mean,
Hmm.
I love that. I spent years with that, or a year or so, easily, right?
Hmm.
Was that me, or was that my not self? It was like, it's such a fun game when you do it with more people. It stops being scary. I had to do it alone.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now I get to do it with Moni and Moana and a bunch of other people, right?
It's so great. We
Chris,
love having you.
Winnie, and freaking Jess, and it's perfect.
Uh-huh.
Cool. Thunder over and under. Tell us about the warrior that leaps.
Uh-huh. So the Earth in 51, arousing, it's shock, thunder over and under. So the image reads, when the outer world is shaken up, the noble one is also inwardly shaken. He is wide awake now, quivering with awareness of the changes underway and ready to take on responsibility for restoring life to harmony.
Mm,
I like
I
that.
love that.
I really I love how this describes it to actually understand like these hexagrams and this kind of more difficult language to kind of like it's rather poetic but like understanding in this beautiful way because it is that 51 like it just comes in and it just like shocks you out of nowhere. I mean it's like when you like were a kid and you accidentally like what happens when you stick your finger in the light bulb socket,
Yeah,
and you
right.
just get that like zap. And then that 25 that's like that landing pad as you've like referred to it as, and receiving that shock, and then like awareness, quivering with awareness of the
Think
changes
about
underway.
what they're talking about, the 57. These gates go together.
Hmm.
They're in opposition on the wheel. They mean each other. Oppositions in a not so roundabout way sort of mean each other.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
can't
there's that
directly,
relationship. Yeah,
yeah, you can't directly call one the other, but they still mean each
it's like
other. The
the
fif-
yin yang, right? Like the yin
Totally.
and the yang, right? You got like the big black part with the little white dot, and then the white part with the little like black, right? Because it'll just like
51 is
keep that
endowed
balance.
and imbued with the penetrating insight that gently shocks to the corner, to the bone of the individual, and gently cools them down or warms them up. It's the breeze that literally penetrates to the core. and and 57 itself, it has to basically do all that in the nature of withstanding the shock. The
Hmm.
warrior's there to withstand the shock and take an action, an empowered individual action that is meant to empower others. I mean, it's meant to empower others. That empowerment is meant to empower others, like,
Hmm.
so profoundly. And then 25 and 51 get to have their little ongoing argument. I'm the warrior. I left. And it's like, you did the leaping, dude. After you left, your job's done. I'm withstanding it all. No, I'm withstanding it with you. That's this little back and forth I always give the gates. Every polarity, I always give the gates a little conversation with each other.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
It's neat to understand it in that way because yeah, they are in relationship, like in the wheel, and like, and when we look at the hexagrams, they have the exact like mirror image of one another.
mirror,
So
perfect mirror. So what for the people? What for us? This is in the sky now till in the sun and the earth for a few
the
more days.
13th,
Okay, so we got a couple days of this, four
right?
days.
So I always like to start with the earth because the earth is what's going to like receive the sun, and it's how we're going to be able to ground this energy to then be able to receive it and like shine that energy of the sun. So being able to ground ourselves in like shocking stuff happens, crazy things happen, you never know what's going to happen, you can't control it, you
Life is
can't
shocking.
predict it. Life is just shocking by the very nature, life, death, all of it is very shocking. And so if we can receive that shock with grace, I think it was in Richard Rudd and like the Gene Keys when I was reading about 51. It's about the shock is going to happen and it's going to knock you off your butt, but if you can receive it with grace, and if you could try to handle it with grace of like, hey, this is really crazy right now, but it will pass, like eventually like the lightning strikes and then it like moves on. So being able to withstand that shock and try to just have grace to get through it, and then to be able to see where maybe that in that moment intuitive knowing comes through with the 57, right? Because if you're freaking out about the shock, you're not going to get the gentle intuitive message of clarity coming
You
through.
won't hear it. It'll get gone. Shock is not a product, nor is it an abstraction of the mind. Shock is the thing that has moved you, with the mind only there to assist in the measurement of navigation. It is listening and tuned intuitively to gate 57, empowered by gate 51 to move everything. And it's again back to the lesson. None of this stuff is a product of our mind. It's a product of our chemistry. It's so intelligent. It's like It's so intelligent. I wish I could do a sci-fi thing on how I view the
Oh
chemistry of
yeah.
the mind. It would be so cool.
Uh-huh.
But let's move on. So what is it? So what for the people?
What for the people? Yeah, things might be crazy, right? Like your what you're having is like your grounding earth might have some crazy, shocking things that happen. Be careful driving. I always see whenever we have like the 51 or the 39 or the 38, any of some of these like more challenging energies, I'm always like, be careful driving. I live in Chicago, so it gets a little busy and crazy, but you can tell like everyone's a little extra on edge. So realize that there's going to be shock, and also realize that other people are going to be experiencing shock and they may not know how to handle it because they don't have human design information.
Because it's so loud in the now that
Mm,
sometimes the mind will try to turn it off. Granted, the mind will gladly run right over the intuitive hit and the clarity of the spleen, but it doesn't mean that those hits aren't loud. They're now
hmm
imbued in us through the sun and the earth that's transiting the sky right now. So it's just extra. It's a big deal.
hmm
And I would say, like, be careful with yourself because you might not notice that you're stepping into something that was just a little bit more of the place where one leaps into the void. You know,
mm.
let's say you never really used a chainsaw. Well, let me just go fire this thing up, see what it does. That happens this week. Don't lose your fingers. Whatever. I haven't been on
Be
a
careful.
motorcycle in a long time. My friend asked me if I wanted to go for, whatever. Just
Be
because you might.
careful with the action adventure sports and with other people because they're going to be getting knocked around too.
I'm
So
speaking to me. Be careful walking down the road.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like when the warrior and the intuitive knowing are right now, think about how the being is being moved. They're being moved in an individual freakish way. They're not even paying attention to certain things.
Oh, I see.
Potentially, just be careful even walk because it's like where normally you would have been more cautious, the warrior is running headlong forward.
Yeah, and people might be extra fighty as well, especially if
Yeah.
people don't have the 51 and they have an undefined ego. I find that when that's lit up,
Yes.
other people can be extra fighty and just like, cool,
Yep.
that's interesting, good luck, like don't get caught up in
Don't fight
other
them back.
people's crazy. Don't fire back, don't fight back, just give it to them. It's not worth it. Yeah, be extra
And
careful.
now is a time to stand for the principles that the individual circuitry scream for. This is the warrior's trumpet cry, no different than a shot heard around the world for this sudden now knowing I will stand for my principles. I will stand for my principles. I will stand for the unique pulse of mutation that is unique and individual, must be respected at all times. Very First Amendment in that way, but I'm just saying must be respected. We must think of what
Mhm.
happens when we curtail a person's unique individuality. They slowly suffer and drown in
It's a bad time.
bad time, bad
Yeah, so
conditions.
just to wrap it up, things might be crazy, things might be shocking. Try to receive it with grace. Be careful in any activities, be careful with other people. Stand true at who you are without getting caught up fighting other people's nonsense. And
Hmm.
try to remain aware to that intuitive, that gentle clarity, and that knowing that will come through with the
Yes,
57. And
yes.
don't be too afraid of the future. It'll be okay.
It's not all supposed to be cannon fire of 51. It's very subtle and so forth. And by the way, this is a great time to jump out of a perfectly good moving plane and or onto a bungee cord, whatever.
You
Truly,
just said
if
for
you were
people to be
gonna, if you're
careful of
already
space
gonna,
cars, and now you're telling them to jump out of plane.
excuse me, I can get in more trouble freaking falling on the cement face first because I wasn't looking where I'm going, than totally hyper focused with an instructor and a parachute. Although it's dangerous, but I'm just saying, if ever you were gonna, do it now.
All right. Do you have any closing words of wisdom to wrap a bow and put a cherry on top?
Oh, jump out of a plane, go, have fun. With an instructor, okay? Bonded, insurance, they mean business, you know.
Oh,
Oh,
here I am.
I probably would have said it, but I think I kind of skipped that step. I was like, I don't know how to follow that up. I'm just going to bring Moana back on stage.
right.
Yeah, so I was gonna say thank you for telling us to put I wanted to say jetpacks, but that wasn't the word.
Jetpacks, let's do that.
Parachute.
That's a new thing now. I'm seeing it all over the place. I want one. They got water jetpacks and regular ones and fan ones yeah.
There you go. All the adventures, but with safety. So with with that, I will tag team both of you out, and
Yeah.
we are going to bring on our lovely guest Effie, who is going to introduce to us the amazing modality of breathwork. So, Effie, welcome. Oh, you are muted, so I should probably no, you have to unmute yourself.
Hi,
There we go. Amazing. Effie, we are so excited to have you here today. How are you feeling?
I'm good. Thank you. Very
Uh,
happy to be here today.
Amazing. So, Effie, pretend we're all kindergartners and we've never heard of breathwork ever before. So, how would you explain it to
Okay.
us?
So basically, actually, a lot of people who come join breathwork for the first time, they actually think that they're coming to a more kind of like a yoga restorative, kind of like easy breathing, which it's really not. So the breathwork modality that I work with people and teach in my lessons are very, very intense, very intentional. And basically, we go through different breathing techniques, very deep breathing, both inhale and exhales, that allow us to kind of like get out of the mind and really almost also have an outer body experience. It is very intense, and people experience really unique things for them, and every session is different. So you can either go from feeling a lot of emotions to falling asleep to your body gets numb, or some pain actually might come up in certain parts of your body. Basically, what this brings up is it allows to bring up to the surface any emotional pain, physical pain, trauma, anything that you've been, pushing and kind of like staying away from, not being aware that you've been hiding. And it all comes up to the surface. The more you focus on the breathing and less in be able to get out of the mind, the more things will start to come up and show up for you. And I've had people who shake and scream and sometimes even cry in sessions, if they're really going all in. But the beautiful part is that what we're doing is we're letting go of stagnant energy through breath work and
Mhm.
allowing through the breath to really clear out a lot of emotions that are stored within, and to clear, and release all that stagnant energy, a lot of
How,
trauma.
I was going to say, I would love to know, how did you come upon breathwork, one, and how has it changed your life?
Yeah, so actually the reason I chose breathwork as to become a facilitator myself is because it really changed for me a lot in my life. I'm not just saying it, it's really what it did. I was on my own healing journey, and I basically started doing certain things in my life, and I wasn't even aware that they're all somatic therapy. And when I started realizing that breath work and intuitive movement and dance and meditation, they're all somatic experiences. That's what led me to basically become a somatic therapy coach myself and focus on breath work. But I came across elemental breath work, which is the modality that I, was experiencing and also decided to teach. Uh, it was almost 2 years ago. I just went to a retreat and somebody was giving like a little bit of a sample of it. It wasn't even like the full session. And I was really intrigued by that. And breathwork really, what it did for me is it allowed me to fall in love with myself all over again, realizing and coming. There's a deeper component of guided meditation, of an inner child guided meditation that brings you closer to parts of you that you've neglected. And it allows you to find that younger version of you that is out there feeling lonely or scared or hurt, and just to reach out. And when you really go deep within breath work and then you bring in that guided meditation, it's just powerful. It's really, really powerful.
It sounds incredible. So, what would you say are the things in your life that you've noticed that's different once you started incorporating it?
So really, I've released so much stagnant energy. I've released a lot of trauma from my childhood. I've been through a lot, like all of us, everybody in their own unique story. And but mainly I felt how also the ripple effect that things changed with me, that other people were noticing, whether it was my kids or even my ex-husband. Um, the more I was able to release through breath work, the more I've started to change. I've started to accept myself differently, to show up for myself differently, to also be able to not be as reactive as I used to be. I remember after the first couple
Mm,
of months, the first thing that my kids told me was, "Mommy, we've noticed that you're not reacting anymore as you used to. Rather, you're responding as opposed to reacting." And that's when I knew that when I heard that from my kids, that was a huge thing for me, and I knew that I'm onto something here. And I started asking people to join me to go to sessions where, and nobody really wanted to come. Like they're like, "What are you doing? You're crying. What are you doing there?" Like, I guess I scared them with my
mm,
description, and then I decided to become a facilitator myself because I
right.
think that people are not enough aware of what breath work can do for you.
Right. I mean, that sounds absolutely incredible. So I was going to say, what would you just brought me to, to the question that was lingering. It's like, so what would be the misconceptions that are like floating around about breath work that you're like, no, 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 let me go debunk that.
Yes, a few things. One, you're not just coming there to lie down and just to breathe calmly. You're coming to do breath work. There is a meaning to the word. We're working on our breathing, and we're doing it very deep and very intentional. I always ask
Mm,
my participants to respect their body, obviously. And if I'm pushing you to do more than you can, then you listen and respect your body. But at the
mhm,
same time, we're not here to fall asleep. We're here to work.
mm,
And some people say at the end of a session, they're so, on one hand, like tired, but also relaxed, and that
mm,
they feel like they did a whole workout. The other thing is, people think that they will come to breathwork or any other modality for that matter, whether it's Reiki or other things, and they think that they're going to do a session or two and all their trouble will go away. And that's really not what
mm.
it is. I don't consider myself a healer. I believe that I'm here to help you heal on your own journey. I'm here to guide you, I'm here to support you, but you're doing your own healing with breathwork, and that's the beauty of it.
Right. Like, which is why I use the word facilitator, right? It's like, no, no,
Yeah.
no, I will hold your hand and I will
I will
guide you,
guide you.
but you're still doing that hard breathing. That's on you.
It's the breathing, it's being able to really connect with your body and
Hmm.
allow yourself to feel. You're showing up, you're taking up space in this world by showing up for yourself this way. And it's hard. It's really not that simple. And when people show up again and again, I'm like, these are people who are ready to do the work. And then I
Right.
combine, aside from the group sessions that I do, I hold also one-on-one sessions for people who are ready to dive deeper. And I
Hmm.
combine that with shadow work.
I was
And
gonna
that's a
say, anyone in the chat, if you have done breath work before, like, I'd love to know how many of you have heard of it or have done it, and any of you was like, I'm excited. What is going to happen? Like,
yeah,
it shed
yeah.
some old skin. Amazing. What was I going to say? So, what is, I guess, hmm, how would I word this? What was your favorite session with a client that you like noticed like a very, very stark difference from before they did breath work? That you're like, oh yes,
Yeah.
poster person for doing the work.
It's actually a very, very kind of like a private situation. So I'll try to explain it without going into details. But it's a
Of
client
course.
of mine who lost a family member,
Mm-hmm.
and they were holding on to a lot of anger. And
Mm-hmm.
what we did is we worked on forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're working one on one, it doesn't have to be general for the whole class. You can allow yourself to, like I said, dive deeper. And basically, after going really, really deep within our breathing and allowing ourselves to go deep into the emotions and dig, we held a forgiveness ceremony through guided meditation and through bringing that person, my client, in the session to allow her in a safe space to bring up whatever that she needed to forgive that person.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so powerful and it was so painful. And sometimes I have to say, as a facilitator, you're there to hold space and to make them feel safe, but you can't help not feeling the pain. I have sessions where like I feel that I'm like I'm ready this close to cry with them. um it's a gift to be able to help people on their healing journey. So
That.
this client was able to not only really forgive and move on for herself, but also for her family members' soul to be able to let them go.
Mhm.
That was
That's
really, really magical.
I was going to say all of this sounds incredible. Now, what we would like to know is how can we infuse this with our human design? So I sent you some prompts. So which
Hmm.
one of them spoke to you and explain to us why that was the one that resonated with you before we have you guide us on a breathwork journey?
So I chose the manifesting generator, right? And from there, um, like there's more than one, right? So like
Yes.
trying to force things
Hmm.
and people pleasing, which is huge. It was huge for me, and it through breath work, I was able to understand. I was able to really dive deep into that younger child within me and understand why I was so, conditioned to these situations in my life. And you know, it's really hard to explain it without giving it all away. But basically, yeah, it's a lot that we go in our childhood that we carry on and we're conditioned in certain ways. And the beautiful thing that it within breath work and that guided meditation at the end really allows you to uh, connect with that younger version, understand them, hold them, feel them, forgive, and move on.
Incredible. So
Yeah.
the ones that you chose was the people pleasing and trying to force things.
Yeah.
As someone who isn't a manifesting generator, I can tell you I definitely have bouts of that all the time. I'm sure many of you in the chat are like, "Yes, please. How do we stop doing that?" So,
Having the need to control and force certain things, like it's, yeah, that's huge all my life. And it's really
so
things that really changed within me and allowed me
mhm.
to shift and to evolve through this work.
Amazing. So I am going to now give the floor to Effie to show us her magic on how we can stop people pleasing and trying to force things. So, Effie, enjoy guiding us. We're super excited.
Thank you, thank you. So hi everyone, good evening. I'm going to give you a little bit of an explanation about our breathwork session for today, and then I will also play some music. Moana, if you'd be able to just let me know if you can hear the music once it's on. Basically, we're going to be starting with uh, 4 different rounds of breathing rounds. We're going to be working with the 4 elements, starting with the earth breathing, which is in for 4 and out for 4. We'll always be doing in through the nose and out through the mouth. So it's going to feel something like this. We're going to be doing in for 4 and out. In and out. I do encourage you when you're breathing out to have your jaw fully drop open and not to create a whistle, exhale. So not like this, but rather more like this. And then basically from our earth breathing, we're going to be going into our water. So in for 2, out for 2, and it's going to sound like this. So and that's basically in, 2, out, 2, in, 2, out, 2. And you don't need to remember any of this because I will be guiding you through the whole session. From there, we'll be transitioning into air breathing, which is in for 1 and out for 1. And that's going to feel like this. So and you really feel that you're breathing, bringing your belly up. The belly is fully expanding when you're breathing in and going down, almost like kissing the spine when you're exhaling. From there, we're going to be doing our breath of fire, fire breath, sorry, which is in and out through the nose, and your mouth is completely closed, and that's going to feel more like this. So your mouth is closed, and you're going, and your belly will basically be jumping up and down because you really want to feel the breath coming from the belly and not from the chest. So, and on our breath of fire, we're going to try and really release through that breath, through the nose, anything that is no longer serving you. Anything from limiting beliefs to anger, fear, any anxiety, anything that has been said to you for years, or maybe things you've been saying to yourself for years that you just realize it is no longer serving you or holding you, um, you know, in any good way, and you're just choosing to turn down a fire with your breath alone and just releasing it all into the fire. And then I'll be guiding you to take a deep inhale, holding it at the top of your head. You'll be holding it as long as you can, and then you'll be exhaling through the mouth. And just really allowing it all to come out. So again, we'll be starting in with a count of 4, in for 4, out for 4, transitioning into the water breath, in for 2, out for 2, then air breathing, in for 1, out for 1, then breath of fire. So in and out through the nose for 30 seconds, pushing it all out. I'll be guiding you all through it. Yeah, we are then going to be continuing with a guided meditation, inner child guided meditation, and it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to the session with you, and let me just get our music going.
We can hear the music.
Okay, perfect. So I am just gonna make sure. Can you hear it?
Yep, I can hear it.
Perfect.
Oh, people in the chat are very excited. So
Okay.
they're like,
Yay.
yes, can't wait.
Amazing. All right. So we're gonna be starting. I do recommend, if you are in a position where you can do so, to lie down and just feel that you're fully supported. Allow your shoulders to fully just relax. At some points, you might be feeling a little bit of tingling through your fingers and toes, and that's totally normal. You might even experience some tetany, which is your fingers be like all frozen, and don't worry about it, you're safe. Let's start by taking some deep inhales. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, in and out. In, out. In and out. And we're just gonna stay here in this earth breathing, slowly finding your own recovery. We'll come back to this earth breathing every time to recover. And at this point, I'm just gonna ask you to allow your body to fully relax. I want you to feel how you're supported by the ground beneath you. Close your eyes. If you need to shake your body a little bit just to find your comfort place. And I'll be guiding you to transition into our water breathing, in for 2 and out for 2, but we still have a few more minutes to just fully connect with your breath. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, in and out. In and out. In, out. In, out. And just feel your belly fully expanding as you're breathing in deeply. And when you're exhaling through the mouth, I want you to feel your belly going back in, kissing your spine, and releasing. At every exhale, we're releasing what is no longer serving us. Keep going, breathing in, releasing through the mouth. Transitioning into our water breath, going in for 2 and out for 2. You ready? In, two, out, two. In, two, out, two. In and out. In and out. In, two, out, two. In, two, out, two. In, two, out, two. I want you to feel your belly going up and exhaling. Keep going, don't stop. Just remember that you're here to show up for yourself, taking care of your body and your soul. In, two, out, two. In, two, out, two. In, two, out, two. In, two, out, two. Transitioning into our air breathing, we're going to be going in for one and out for one on my count. Remember, always inhaling through the nose as deep as you can and exhaling through the mouth. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Ha, 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 ha. Don't be afraid to exhale and be vocal. You're allowed to be heard. You're allowed to take up more space. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Give it everything you have. Keep going. We're almost there. In, out, in, out, in, out. Transitioning into breath of fire, 30 seconds in and out through the nose only. Your mouth is completely closed. And I want you to go in and out through the nose. Feel your belly jumping up and down as you're turning down a fire with your nose, releasing what is no longer serving you, throwing into the fire, letting go of any limiting beliefs, any pain that you've been holding on for years. And take a deep inhale. And I want you to hold that breath at the top of your head for as long as you can. And when you can no longer do so, I want you to release, letting it all out. That was a beautiful first round. We're transitioning into our second round and just taking the time here to recover with the earth breathing. You can go in for 4 or 6 and out for 4 or 6, whatever feels comfortable for you, until I guide you to transitioning into our water. In and out. In, slowly taking it all in through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. In and out. Transitioning into our water breath. On my cue, we'll be going in for 2 and out for 2. Keep your eyes closed. Stay focused on your body. Try to get out of the head. In, 2, out, 2. In, 2, out, 2. In, out. In, two, out, two. 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 Keep going. Transitioning into air breathing, in for one and out for one on my cue. Don't give up now. You can do this. The deeper you take that inhale, the more you're able to feel. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. It's okay if it feels a little bit sore, a little bit dry on your nose. You might even feel dizzy. Keep going. Don't give up now. In, out, 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 in, out. Keep going. In, out, in, out. Ha, ha. Remember, we want the breathing to be very intentional. Give it everything you have. Transitioning into breath of fire. In and out only through the nose. Our mouth is going to be completely closed, throwing into the fire anything that is no longer serving you. Let's go. Keep pushing through, in and out, only through the nose, as fast as you can and as deep as you can. I want you to feel your whole body pushing through. And take that deep inhale. Slowly fill your belly and your lungs with air. And hold it. Hold it for as long as you can until you have the need to release. And whenever you're ready to release, I want you to fully let it all out. Feel the vibration in your voice as you're releasing. Transitioning into our third round. You're doing beautiful. Keep going. Trust yourself. Connect to the rhythm. And just allow yourself here to recover, going in for 4 and out for 4. The body will start feeling more tense, numbing on your fingers and toes, and that's completely normal. If you need, you can move your hands a little bit. And just keep going. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. In and out. Don't stop breathing, connecting to those deep and slow breathing. Before we transitioning into our water, we will be going in for 2 and out for 2. You ready? Let's go. In, 2, out, 2. In, 2, out, 2. In, 2, out, 2. In, 2, out, 2. In, two, out, two. Keep going. In, two, out, two. In, two, out, two. Allow your body, invite any emotions that are coming through, visions, anything you're hearing. It's completely normal for your body to have very strong sensations. In, two, out, two. In, two, out, two. Transitioning into water, into air. Going in for one and out for one on my count. In, out, 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 in, out. Keep going. In, out, in, out. I want you to feel your belly expanding every time you're inhaling. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Keep pushing through. We'll be transitioning into our breath of fire. In and out through the nose. Give it everything you have. Throwing into the fire. Releasing all that stagnant energy. Releasing any limiting beliefs, shame, pain. Anything that is sitting on your back, on your shoulders, on your chest. Let's go. Breathing only through the nose, in and out through the nose. Your mouth is completely closed. Push it all out. Let it all out. And when you can no longer hold it in, I want you to then just take that deep inhale. Hold it in. And whenever you're ready, you can release slowly. I encourage you to be vocal, releasing with your voice, feeling the vibration. It's okay to scream. It's okay to cry. Remember that you're safe. Beautiful. We normally do 5 sessions of breathing rounds, and we have done 3, and we're skipping into our guided meditation. I want you to just really connect with your breath now, at your own pace, whatever feels good for you. I'm going to ask you to recall a time in your life where you've experienced an immense amount of joy and gratitude. With your eyes fully closed, I want you to take that moment here. Imagine as if this is happening right now, that beautiful moment in your life. I want you to envision it. I want you to really feel it. Could be a birth of a child, maybe holding the hand of a loved one. It could be your pet or just a walk in nature. And as you're feeling these moments of gratitude and joy, Is there anyone there with you? Can you see the colors in the room? I'm going to ask you to breathe in. Breathe in all that feeling and sensation of love and gratitude and joy. And I want you to breathe it into every cell of your body. And as you're doing this, allowing your body to fully feel the vibration of gratitude and joy, I'm going to ask you to find a moment to connect with a younger version of you, a younger child. I want you to find a moment where you can see and envision a younger you standing somewhere in the room. That younger version of you might be standing there lonely. Try to connect with their eyes. Try to hold their hand. And as you do so, I want you to tell that younger version of you, thank you. Thank you for always being there for me. I want you to look into that younger child of yours, look deeply into their eyes and tell them thank you for always showing up. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for this life journey. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for making me who I am today. And as you're feeling so connected to that younger version of you, keep holding their hand and look directly into their eyes. And I want you to tell that younger you, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for letting you down at times. I'm sorry for hurting you and others. I'm sorry for not knowing better at times. But I forgive you. And I hope you forgive me. Look into your eyes, that young, beautiful child. Hug them very, very close. And just tell them, I forgive you. We can move on now. You don't have to carry on this pain any longer. And as you're doing so, I want you to tell your younger version, I love you. I love you. And just keep repeating, I love you for your imperfections. I love you for who you are. I love you. You're safe now. We don't have to carry on this pain. We're connected. I'm here for you. Take a deep breath in, and with all your intention, I want you to tell yourself once again, thank you. I'm sorry. I forgive you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And take a few more seconds here for yourself. We normally leave for another more song of integration to allow for yourself to just bring everything back, to integrate all the emotions and the sensations. Don't forget to breathe in. Move your body slowly from side to side.
The power of love is here now. The power of now is here now. The power of you is here to create magic on us. The power of love is here now. The power of now is here now.
And take this time to slowly get up again, coming back to a sitting position. I want you to thank yourself for showing up. Thank yourself for loving yourself, for being here today. Thank you so much for having me here with you.
Let the fire burn away your fears. Let the wind blow into your life such faith and trust. Oh, let the earth hold you, take care of you, and nurture you all. The power of love is here now.
Bring you back
The power
to
of
Moana
love is here
and Danny.
The power you need to create magic on us.
I'm just going to turn this up.
Power.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Wowee. Yeah, I'm still coming out of it. That was absolutely incredible. Our chat
you.
was going wild. So these are some of the comments we got. We got, this is all so lovely and powerful. We got amazing, and thank you so much. So very powerful.
Thank you so much. It's really sometimes hard to do this like online because I can't feel or see the energy in the room and the people. And as a Reiki master myself, I also like to sometimes do some hands-on and just allow people to feel fully supported and safe. Yeah, but it's a very powerful thing, really beautiful modality to just allow yourself to sit with your emotions and allow for things to come up. We really
Hmm.
won't, healing is impossible without feeling. So that's where this is really huge for me.
Amazing. So if
Thank you.
you can let everyone who's watching know where they can find you and what are all the amazing things that you can do with them, I will start dropping your links in the chat so people can reach out to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so like I mentioned, I do Sunday morning sessions here in Vaughan. I do facilitate in group sessions for women only, and I do one-on-one work, either in participants' houses or my own studio myself up here in Vaughan as well. And I do hold dance ceremonies for intuitive dancing. That's where we met, I believe.
Yes, it was a full moon dance off.
Yes, and it's just so magical, bringing women together, cacao ceremony, journaling, sharing circles, and just bringing, sisterhood, community to fully allow yourself to take up more space, to express yourself, to feel through movement and release through movement, which is magical.
As someone
Um,
who's been to her dance, it's like a magical, floaty vibe. It's just so supportive and wonderful. And yeah, if I didn't go to that, Effie and I wouldn't be here. And Effie and I are cooking up a live human design breathwork event. So if you are in the Toronto GTA area and you want to see Effie in person and want to see me in person, this is your chance. So watch out on our Instagram page for details for when we finalize that. But this is
I'm
the
so
first time I've said
excited.
it out loud to like
I know,
the general public. So that's very, very exciting.
for
And
sure.
I'm
Me too.
pretty sure no one has done that kind of like in-person event,
Combination, yes.
at least in the GTA. Period. It's just breath work or like just human design, but like marrying the two,
And
pretty
also a
sure.
lot of the time it's online stuff, and I think this is so beautiful to be able to allow for people to come together, in a physical, like, allow the whole being in person is huge.
Yes, so very, very excited for that. So now, Effie, I'm uh hoping that you are, ready to buckle up and go on a
Yes,
wild journey
I'm so excited.
with Danny, your fellow MG, who is going to be giving you a lot of aha after ahas. So it's going to be Wild Town. So Danny, I hope you're ready to have some fun with our fellow MG here and tag team out.
Effie, it's so good
Hi.
to see you. I was watching this thing. It was amazing. You really took me back.
Thank you, thank you.
Through this work, I've come to know my child in a really unique way, like
Yes,
deeply. So
yes.
many different angles. And when you're like embrace it and see it and hold it, and I'm like, oh my God, this language is riddled through what I'll be talking to you about today. I was just blown away by a psychic attunement, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
I'm
shows up.
so excited.
Me too. So I have my book here. And your chart's about to come up. So query, couple of questions. Are you in your human design experiment? Or is this your very first time? Or do you know a
So
little?
Moana did guide me through a little bit. That's when we met, and she started telling me what it is, and I was so intrigued. So I do know a little bit. Like, I mean, I know that I'm the manifesting generator and some of it, but I don't know most of it. No.
Well, if this is your chart, we just have to sort of correct one thing. You're not a manifesting generator, you're a generator.
Oh, generator. Okay, I thought the
This is
manifesting
why,
generator.
well, there's a huge key. The manifesting generator is a little bit like squirrel squirrel is always just going here and there, and it skips steps, like remembering where it put all its nuts, for instance. Um, and so manifesting generators do that too. So always sort of skipping steps, pushing ahead, skipping lots of steps. When you skip steps, it's mostly through struggle, but and you can go level by level to get through each little thing when needed. And you can slow down. When you need to, you can slow down a little bit easier. Is that true?
That's true, but I do tend to hop from one thing to the other a lot as well.
Well, yeah, you're a generator. We all have that. It's baked in. It's in the conditioning. So would you say you know enough about your generative type and the strategy that you started to see that your awareness is gained through the act of waiting to respond? Have you seen any of that?
Definitely,
Okay, which means
definitely.
now the response can only happen in that one place that is the now, neither before or after. So it's really cool. So this is the way of the generator, and what you're looking at this chart, it's incredible because it's loaded with activity. Um, you're especially attuned for breath work like this because every single center in your body graph is touched by a black line or more, one or more, meaning you're aware of all of your things. You've got gates in every center. So this brings you in tune with so many things that you do. I just love that you do what you do. I'm still sort of blown away by it. So,
Wow.
do you have any questions about your design?
I do. I have a lot. I don't even know where to start. So I was hoping that you can like start telling me about it more, and then I would kind of like,
I will, but has anything, just that the first thing that comes to mind?
It's just it seems a lot,
Okay.
and I've always thought that I'm too much and extra. So I wonder if this had anything to do
There you
with
go. So this good, because this is the conditioning. The whole idea of this body graph is for you to and all of us to decondition. And it takes about 7 years fully, and it takes about a few months to see that you need to have it, or even sometimes a day. But it takes 7 years to finish deconditioning, and the deconditioning starts to pull you away from that sense that you ever have that you're too much or anything of the like. I was watching what is almost too much in a breath work thing that you were just doing minutes ago, and it was too much. It's so much, but it's no such thing as too much when people need it, you know? And this is basically your way. This cross that you're on is about tension. It's about tension. And this right angle cross of tension it's literally there to think of tension, this cross of tension that you're on, a lot like a piano string. A piano string has to have lots of tension in order to make its music, and its music only comes over time through depth. And there's where this feeling of too much comes through. Your body graph has a guaranteed unconscious, not self trip called fear of rejection, fear of inadequacy, fear of too muchness. It's there in gate number 48 on your chart. 48 is part of your incarnation cross. It's unconscious. It's off the spleen on the left-hand side, the
Mhm.
farthest gate out. I don't know if you see it there. And it's red. It's pointing at the throat. And it sits there as part of your cross. This incarnation cross it bears what the name says. When you incarnate, this is a cross that's etched into, you're intrinsically tied into what it brings you to. Tension keeps bringing you to new music. No new music, no filling your spirit. So this has been and music, music I'm using as a metaphor, your
Mhm.
music, whatever that is. Of course you knew that. Does that sound familiar? This
Yeah.
tension? Okay. Um, does it deeply sound familiar? Tension.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes it scares, especially the whole tension.
Yes, because the tension is scary. The tension is just downright scary. And because your conscious personality is in tune with every single center in your body graph in one way, shape, or form, um, it's the tension is felt everywhere. So my guess is you can't always localize where that tension is, other than it congregates in your throat a lot.
And my right shoulder, my right arm.
Lymph right off
Yeah,
the
yeah,
right off the throat. So yeah, that's your open throat center. There's one open center in your body graph, that open box in the center, the throat center.
yeah.
And as we grow up, our parents accidentally take us away from our nature. It's a big problem. We don't know we're doing it. We've done it. I did it to my children until I tried to stop. When I first found out it was I'd already done it for like 12 years. So oops. um, but now that we know, we got to get to the kids. But there's a not self theme that's baked into us through our open centers most profoundly. And the open center, called the throat center, is what wants to manifest and articulate and engage and do and get out in front. And get out in front, not necessarily to beat other people, but sometimes it is. And that's okay. Sometimes you've gotten into it simply to beat the other person. Is that true?
Sorry again?
Sometimes you've gotten into a thing simply to beat the other person. This was in your younger years, at least up through till the
Yeah,
30s.
very reactive, yes.
It's like, oh yeah, bam, and that back comes you. Right. Okay. Yeah. So that makes sense because this open throat is starving for attention. And it also at the same time recognizes that there's tons of attention and sometimes it's too much. So sometimes it shuts up. Sometimes it nervously talks too much. Sometimes it keeps trying to decide what to do, when to articulate, even like what to do with your hands when you're sitting still or whatever, talking to someone. Does all that sound familiar?
Very much.
Okay, so that's who you're not. That's who you're not. So there's a mantra in human design. Every single time we come across one of these moments and you listen to it again, next time with your pen and paper, when you watch this back, you have to watch this back. you'll write this down. Oh, that's who I'm not. Write down whatever it was I just said. I can't say it again. I probably can, but it'll, whatever. I'm in a flow. So whatever I said, write it down, and you'll be like, oh, this is who I'm not. You are not the seeker of attention. You are simply the attention or not. And it can only come on a generator's timing, in the now, in response. And the response you'll always notice, because the generative life force gives us a chemistry. It guarantees we'll like it. It guarantees we'll be lit up. That listen, you're in tune with all this stuff. How many muscles in our face? It takes how many to smile and how many to frown, right? It's our face basically speaks the words that we're saying pretty effectively. If you think about it, it's like the embouchure of a complicated instrument. And it's there to simply articulate in a timing according to the sacral. Sacral has the energy and it feels amazing. It feels so good. And then suddenly you can't tell. It's somehow a little disorganized, trying. It's the difference between not trying, and it just happened naturally, and trying.
Mm.
It's going to be hard to tease out at first sometimes, but if you have a generator form like you do, there is a constant energy waiting to be in tune with what the little kid was in tune with. The little kid was in tune with, unless it was impacted by outside forces that made it be afraid for its existence. Short of that, the inner kid was very often and most often in tune to, it just did whatever was next because it loved it. Or it was seeking that it was going to love it or not. And if it didn't love it, it stopped and did the next thing, and until it loved it again, until its body's energy was excited, ripping through things, gaining its depth, investigating all the little nuggets, trying this, trying that, not wanting to get in trouble for trying stuff, not even thinking about trouble for trying this and trying that. Remember that child that you just asked us to tell I love you to? I was almost in tears in that moment. I was like, oh, this gal, this, what the hell did she do to me? Um, so that inner kid is always right because it tells you, I love this. The energy's there. The response in the moment is, uh-huh. It's digging a hole. It's moving over to the blades of grass. It's hurt its friend, so it's going to run over there. Each thing is a response, no different than a dog or a cat or everything else, basically. It is simply a response that is energized by the chemistry of the body. And the body's chemistry is so aware, we had to give it a definition on the left-hand side called the design. The design means the body, the personality means the mind in its whole essence, part of which is tapped into the rest of the universe. And the body's intelligence is aware. If we could only give it lips and vocal cords, it would talk just like we do, with lots of words. It's aware, it's conscious, it's a dual consciousness. So inside this body of yours comes this incredible responsive nature, and you see it all the time, but it's riddled with nervousness, open throat, shoulders tense. What do I say? You know what I mean? So even to this day, so let's see, you were born in what, 1980?
Yeah.
So
January 1st, 1980.
so that makes you going on 44 or something, 45, something like that. Okay.
45, yeah.
Cool. So you're totally in college. 40 to 50 is, we are hardcore in good college, not woke college, and we're killing it, and we're watching ourselves grow, and we really start to flower from here, just sort of like whatever it was you
I
just did.
honestly feel it's the best time of my life. My son asked me the other day, well,
Sure.
Mommy, if you can go back to any age, what age would you go? I'm like, no age. Because don't you want to be younger? I'm like, no, I love who I am today.
Well, I got news for you. Every time someone asks me that question, I just caveat it with, as long as I can have everything I got now in my head and bring it back with me,
I know, but we
or,
can't.
then yeah, 18. No, 7. Take me back to 7. Um, so this generative form has a response. It tells us what's true just as surely as the conscious mind can measure something and add 2 plus 2 and tell us it's true, that'll be 4 inches, not 2 inches. The conscious mind does that and gives us truth that way. That's the only way it can give us truth, is in the conscious measurement, juxtaposition, answer, something, whatever it is. But the body doesn't go through that process. The body is the other consciousness that says, I'm conscious. I'm aware. I know exactly what's best for this totality of this physical being, this package walking around. And if I'm a generator, then I know it so well that I don't even need to know it. My generative form through my sacral simply responds, uh-uh. I can't tell. Yeah, no, no, maybe. I don't know yet. It's always doing that. The I don't know and the maybe is the difference between not yes or not no yet. It's just neither yes or no, or uh-huh and uh-uh. Have you noticed in your life this incredible, perpetual, in the moment point where suddenly you recognize your perfect form knew exactly what to do, but it only knew as a response? And you recognized my mind had nothing to do with my perfection navigating that moment. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
You would. This is a design to see it all the time and then to think about it over and over again. Or in different
I
ways,
can
shall we?
I can definitely like see myself watching this all over again tomorrow.
Yeah. So you'll point to times in your life, and there's hundreds of them. They show up in little mundane ways. They don't have to be a big thing. They could simply be, a decision on what to purchase, at a store for groceries or something. And you realize later, it's like, oh my God, I'm so glad I got this one thing. Um, and then you'll go back to the moment. You'll remember the moment you got that one thing that you didn't have on the list or something, and you realize sacral did that. Mind came in after and said, oh, yeah, maybe
Mm.
this is a good idea. Let me measure how much it costs. But sacral moved. And the difference between the sacral truth as a responder, I'm a generator, we're responders, we're dumb as rocks until we're in response and orient our life in response and orient everything to be the Buddha that waits. And in the waiting, the recognition that you need not wait long when you're a generator and you have a life force that guarantees an open, enveloping aura that brings things in slowly. Everything always comes into the generator. I would say to you, you've noticed this in your life, but you may have only noticed it tentatively, such that you're not sure if you believe it yet, because it doesn't always happen that way, because our not self disorganizes that, but we are always pulling things in. Um, Knowing that is to suddenly know the way to differentiate how this responder is going to speak with the seer, the mind that is who we think we are. We think we are this measuring mind, and the speaker of the words that you just did, and the knower of all the techniques that you would go through. But deep down, there's a body intuition that happens at the speed of lightning. Because the mind process is a process that's slow by comparison, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
always slow. It takes a second or two to kick up, but the response is totally true all the time. Back to the kid. The kid is always right. And the kid is screaming from the red design sides of our body to us generator adults saying, dude, listen up. I keep giving you, this feels great. I'm lit up. Do the thing. Or this doesn't feel so good. I can't quite tell. No. Or I'm somewhere in between. Don't push me. One of those two things, three
Yeah.
things. Um, and I want to demonstrate it to you. I want you to see it. I think I should deal with this open throat because it'll be where so much of the sort of hung up part is. The part that made you so deep, by the way. You're designed for depth. Um, so if the response is true because it is the child, if it happens at nearly the speed of electricity, we'll call it, like lightning fast, um, and it's always speaking, and the mind takes a half a second or so, or an eighth of a second to kick in and start having nervousness that then re-electrifies and polarizes the body in all the wrong way. And that mind takes, again, half a second, we'll call it. I want you to put yourself in a responsive state while I ask you questions so you can see the immediate versus the I struggle to speak and qualify and measure.
Okay.
Can you get a sense of what I'm asking you for right now?
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Surrender,
so.
surrender into no think response. Um, I'm just going to ask you about this open throat. Okay.
Okay.
So, have you noticed in your life sometimes you struggle with the timing to speak?
Yes.
Is this hard to admit?
But it's definitely true.
Notice your mind thinking all kinds of things that the kid wouldn't think in the moment right after your body said, yeah, it's hard sometimes, a little, I think it's hard, or not. The truth was right there. The mind started to qualify that. It's subtle. Did you see that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's a mechanic and it's going to keep happening. This is what we want every generator to start looking at, because you need to see this tiny little nugget of space, because we've been missing it the whole time. It's so easy to miss. It's like a feather went by, huh? You just didn't notice it. And then it's gone, except for the ill effects it leaves behind in us. So have you been embarrassed by speaking too much?
Many times. I just
Right.
tend to like, keep digging on a subject and
Did you suddenly find that you didn't know why you had all the energy for that? At the
uh well, I do tend to hyperfixate on stuff.
Well, that's normal. You got this channel of abstraction. It's perfect. Uh, you're supposed to hyperfixate. Essentially, that's what makes the tension um, start to come to the surface that we spoke about in the beginning. At times, do you notice that suddenly this thing can sing, this open throat of yours, that out of nowhere, not just sing notes, but the timing, when it shows up right, it feels good. When it
Yes.
shows up right, it feels good. And do you notice that you're at the edge often, waiting for the timing to engage? Like you're watching, it's like it's a thing. You have some stuff, and you're in an active process of like waiting to fall into saying something and or doing something. Have you noticed that?
Lately more than ever.
Okay, that's who
Just
you're
more
not.
awareness. But lately more than ever, I've been more aware of that.
More aware of
Less.
it. Right. This is a constant pressure. Look at it like a suffocation of the child within, like of sorts, a slight amount of that keeps building up over time to where it's not so much a slight amount anymore. That waiting for the timing is your mind thinking that I need to do something about all of this. Whereas the responder says, I'm just sitting here by the river waiting for the bodies of my dead enemies to float by. That's what, actually, that's a horrible analogy, but that's 4,000 years ago with Buddha or whatever. So that was their time. But still waiting by the river for the truth to flow by is the same analogy, and just watching it, because every moment of every day, we're capable of the full weight and energy of our body falling into the response that then finds the right timing. Your right timing comes in waiting. It comes in waiting. So as you wait now in the future with all of these things that you see, this energy, you keep starting to watch and say, that's actually not my energy. That's energy my parents conditioned into me because they didn't ask me yes
Mm.
or no questions. They didn't know to keep enforcing, I will see my truth this way, so that as you mature, you will never let other people in life show you a truth a different way than what you already know, like right away, and intuitively can energize as what's true for you. And they just didn't know. They stopped asking us yes or no questions. So when I get into asking you this timing thing and this whole, it shows up in groups. The thing is, in groups, very often you're a chameleon. Do you notice that?
Hmm.
Well, not groups
Uh,
not groups but groups in the beginning. Does that happen?
yeah, yeah,
In the beginning,
a
you're
little
not
bit.
first most talker unless you're being addressed and it's something in your expertise.
True. That is
Okay.
true.
That's good. I mean, just to always surrender to that. That's how you operate. So
Yeah.
don't let people tell you, my expertise ain't there yet, dude. I don't know. Maybe, that's so impresses you. You can't be put under pressure to speak, but you think you're always under pressure to speak. Do, speak, engage, say, have the right thing to say with the right force in the right way. This, again, all of this sounds familiar, right?
Yes.
Um, can you speak to it at all? Because it's part of the depth that made you bring me into a deep place 10 minutes ago or however long ago it was. If this is part of that tension, I know as you work through it, that's brought you there. If this wasn't here and you didn't have this stuff going on, chances are you wouldn't be as deep as you are. And now let's align it all and get you seeing what you're not. So speak to it a little bit, if you can.
It's funny, as soon as you said speak to it a little bit, I felt that I couldn't.
Okay, don't. Yeah. Do you want to speak to it? Don't you hear sacral talking to you right now? It's saying, no, maybe.
No, no.
Right. Is it hard to say no?
Yes,
Okay, notice how quick
it's,
that was.
yeah.
When you listen back, you'll hear your breath that you were just going over. You'll hear your generator
Oh,
sacral
I
child.
felt stuck from here to here, like,
Yeah, but in that last second when I said, well, I forgot the question I asked, you were like, yes, that was a sacral response. You'll see it. It's like, oh, it's instant. It was already there dripping out. I just had to let it out. Whereas everything else is I have to think and ponder it out.
100%.
100. Yes. So I just did it a couple more times so you can see that. And now I just want to put this throat part to rest so we can just talk about some other things. Now you can know the pressure for the timing to speak has nothing to do with anything you might care to prove, and it only disorganizes the tension in the room. And most importantly, it's who you're not. It's who you're not. The 4-year-old did not care about the pressure of its timing. It just blabbed on every time it had a new word and it stopped blabbing when it stopped. The kid was perfect. And it only told itself the truth the younger and younger we get, you know what I mean? Until we get the sweet spot, 3, 4, 5. And by then, I want you to understand the depth because this is right up your alley with this cross of tension is all about the tension to gather and acquire depth. That's what it's about. This cross of tension is a giant funnel for depth that serves the collective ultimately. Your love of the collective, you know. And so, what was the thing I just said before that?
Just,
Because I want to show you the thing that I
the love,
love. It.
I'm the love of the collective.
Say it again.
Collective, the love of the collective.
So yeah, well, just this whole 48, I got lost in this whole 48 as a big purpose inside of your incarnation cross. You're here just acquiring the depth. You're here acquiring the depth is what's incredible. And to know that you are not the trying of the timing of when to speak and articulate and engage and show and whatever. You are the whimsical arbiter of that timing as the same as a boat that would sail on the water. The boat is at the mercy of the water, and the boat captain does not. The boat captain does not care. He knows. You know what I'm saying? The boat itself doesn't care. It knows. Yeah, I'm on the water. That's what I'm here for, and I'm not in charge of the water. Open throat is not in charge of the timing. Open throat is the timing.
Mm.
Yeah, and so you'll start to see those words become truth over time as you keep looking at this. Does any of this raise any questions? Because there would have been parts in your life where there's lots of little hang-ups, things we call trauma or this or whatever, you know, held on to burdens and stuff like that.
There's a lot, from childhood to adulthood, right?
Yep,
Um, I don't know why it feels like very heavy, listening to some of these things.
because it is. There's no easy way around this. We only let people on that are already doing lots of self-work and you know
Of
what I mean?
course.
Yeah, and just in love and just know that love is the way and are ready for that movement one way or another. And that's you. I mean, it was so obvious. So it should be a little bit, let it be heavy. You're designed to read everything as heavy anyways. That's half of what tension is. So
Mm.
the human design body graph is a diagnostic tool. It reaches into our genome and tells us through what I call magic. I just love it. This body graph is amazing because it pinpoints specifically that this genetic feature in our body is turned on. And now we can keynote it with the words of what it means as it vibrates up to the surface and becomes all these characters and characteristics and our way. And it becomes all of our behavior and it becomes us. That's what the us that we see as us is the product of the diagnostic tool you're looking at, of all its little features bubbling away, coming up to the surface. So this should be on every, I say this every episode, it should be on every driver's license. It should be on, right? It should be on your, whatever, your
It's
school
funny, a
chart.
part of me wanted me to have this little like
You
image
should,
with me
you should
and
get it on
yeah,
your,
to refer to it every time.
yep, yep. So each of these activations, you have about 20 of them approximately, does stuff for us. And wherever there's a channel in your body graph, a channel is where two gates are activated. Activated means they're colored in, they're red, black, or
Mm-hmm.
striped.
Mm-hmm.
So go to the top where you see the yellow triangle pointing up, that's the head
Mm-hmm.
center. And the ajna is the green center pointing down. This is the head center pressures us, pineal gland, giant antenna out into the all of it all, right? And it's always pressuring us to translate our existence. It's an actual pressure to translate what the hell about our existence. And you're constantly translating what the heck about your dang existence. You're lost in confusion about it all with fanciful, colorful moments over and over again throughout your life of sudden clarity, incredible clarity. The confusion leaves and the oppressiveness of that just turns into aha. And it feels like a breakthrough that you're almost desperate to tell people, you know what I mean? At times.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
it's fun. Now you can watch that process and be like, oh my God, you can actually watch yourself being yourself. And you can say, oh my God, I'm desperate to freaking get this. This is so good. I just figured it out. The timing and the power, and you suddenly will say, I demand your attention. I just figured this out. Or it'll just shut up for a little bit while it still doesn't know if it's the right timing. Sometimes you will manifest, like we all do, over and over again as a response.
Mm.
The response turns, it's so fast, it turns into manifestation, only related to the response itself. So in that moment, you have them all the time. This mind of yours never shuts off. You're constantly daydreaming. That's what this chart says about the top part of this body graph with these four gates in your body graph, the way it's designed there in this top part. And it says that I daydream. I am
It's
constantly
exhausting
walking.
though.
Say it again.
It's exhausting.
It is exhausting when you care. When you stop caring that you're doing it,
Mm.
it becomes the greatest problem solver on the planet. Essentially, this thing solves problems like no other. This configuration, because gate 43 off the bottom of your ajna guarantees that you have insights and little breakthroughs, and they're unique and they're freaky sometimes. They're so unique and they only show up independent of your will. They don't show up upon your will. You can't manifest or, make the uniqueness pour out in thought. It shows up in thought. Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tried to sit down and be creative on purpose?
Sure, I have,
You,
yeah.
and sometimes we can if it's something we're already got ongoing.
But
Um, it's
mm,
not so easy though. Take a blank canvas and be an artist. You know what I mean? It's unless you're already in it, that's not always so easy until a mutative moment where it is.
yeah.
And that's what this gate 43 at the bottom of this does. And it's pointing right at the throat, the only open center in your body graph. So it longs to physically bridge the gap below it and get to the throat to basically manifest this incredible new insight. Most of your lack of timing that you think is like you can't tell and keeps you on edge, like we described, that thing that you are not. Um, Lots of that is the product of this that feels like confusion that keeps coming to varying degrees of clarity, like in a moment that feels like a breakthrough that almost wants to claw its way out. Does
Yeah.
that sound
The
okay?
confusion that turns into clarity is so right on.
How does that feel for you? What's that like on a daily basis? Because it never turns off.
Again, it's exhausting, but it's rewarding at the same time.
Describe what's exhausting about it.
Overthinking when the confusion comes on.
Mhm.
Uh, I tend to, I used to more in the past than now, but obsess about certain things.
Mhm.
But then now I find that many times instead of going on, I don't know, 10 days to 10 years about something, all of a sudden, like a few
Fear of the
days, I'm like,
future. Fear of what it will do. Fear of what it will do. That's what you're just saying. That's in the Sun Earth transiting us right now, and it's in your body graph, gate 57 and gate 48 off the top of the spleen. Again, both of them are unconscious. So they just happen. You don't have super conscious touch with them until they're happening. And that's what seems scary. Oh my God, this thing's happening to me. Oh my God, this thing is happening to me. That's what it feels like. Does that sound familiar? It's like, why is this thing showing up happening to me? Does that
yeah,
do
yeah.
you um
But then I do find that I snap into, like, there's been a lot of shifting and a lot of awareness all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden I'm at so much ease, so much
right,
easier than I used to be.
easier on yourself. What happens is you come to the awareness that tomorrow doesn't matter. I'm a responder. I must simply respond. Um, and the confusion process that turns into clarity for me, it's called abstraction. That's constantly mired in any type of thought, but the abstraction will put any two things together. It doesn't matter. It'll put any combination of things in an abstract way and start to make sense out of even the most confusing things.
Mhm, mhm.
And it never wants to stop. So it becomes our job to recognize when we're called into it, when we feel called into it in such a way that we love it and we're now our energy feels good versus when it didn't matter. And you can tell when it didn't matter so much, where meaning it just had to keep its process going, not having you obsess over fearing it. Think about all these obsessivenesses. We all have them. And it's like, I think I would, get too much. Overthinking was the word you used. And it's not overthinking. It's overpaying attention to the thinking.
Hmm,
Think about
true.
that. Yeah.
And like you
Actually,
said, once you don't care anymore.
or you can't, what happens is you start to care less.
Mhm.
You learn to you age and refine your process of realizing I don't care nearly as much about that. I don't care. um and there it is. All of it still comes back to the generator in you, this beautiful generator that has this responsive truth. Think of how good the 4-year-old feels when it's unencumbered, no one's trying to influence it, and it is just off and running with whatever the exciting moment is. At 4, everything's a trip, right? Everything's about the coolest thing since sliced bread, right? Um,
Yeah.
so that what would take that kid off action? Nothing. It's right on its perfect self. We
Yeah, because
need
the child doesn't overthink. The child doesn't.
the child simply is the child, just like you are the openness and the definition. And so in that perfectness, because remember the rule of law, the axiom or the maxim of law says the kid is always right. And you have to start seeing that the kid is just always right. That kid felt like $1 million when it was doing something it wanted. And when the parents tried to take it off its track, it felt exactly not that. Or when it got frustrated with the thing because it couldn't make something work, it finally was not excited. It knew the difference. It totally knew the difference, and it totally moved away from things that were frustrating and measured them and saw them and then discarded them and moved towards the things that felt like $1 million. As soon as the pressure of this is a pressure center after all, it's total pressure up there. Nothing but mental pressure to translate existence. Keep thinking, kid. That's what the universe has asked of you at the time you were minted like a coin upon birth, by the planetary system above us. And in that moment that was happening, this thinking process becomes, if it doesn't feel good, you're right. Move away.
Yeah.
If it does feel good, you'll get engaged. You'll sit there and start pondering. You realize that you can literally burn as many calories in a day sitting still with that mind ears going and exhaust yourself with the greatest thing, right?
Right on.
Are you married? Or
Divorced.
okay, no, I was just gonna say I was gonna make a husband joke, but I probably shouldn't then. Just significant others notice these things. And if they hold
Yes,
them
they do.
against the other, what they're doing is they're harming. that person when they hold it against them. All the crazy little things that we are, human design helps show us how to see how helpless we are, but to be it, so we can stop being so pissed at the other guy. They're helpless, even if they're sort of a tool about it. It's like, I get it. He can't help it, Um, and we get this amazing grace that does what you asked of us when you were talking. Tell the kid everything's going to be okay. Assure them. And we wouldn't want to tell that kid a lie. Everything is going to be okay as soon as we start listening to its guidance. Guidance tells us truth, not true. True, energy for it. Not true, I got 50% or less energy for this thing. Even though you might be doing it, but you still got crappy energy for it. It's just so simple that almost only a child can understand it, is the point. And so that kid is always right. Put this in your generator form and we add this confusion, then you start to see that, yeah, you struggle. Yes, there is lots of tension in all of this. Yeah, you even shut up. So sometimes you don't even pull the beauty that tension brings us in that musical piano string onto the plane. But it's there. It's there in your mental capacity to keep thinking. Do you dream in color?
Sorry?
Do you dream in color?
I do. I think I do. Yeah.
You do. You do. Um,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
I want to tell you that just ever since I've been doing the inner child work many times and during the day, during situations, yeah, I actually helped myself come out of eating disorders by being able to connect back to the inner child and ask my little young Effie, what do you need right now? What are you missing? What are you feeling right now that is getting you to go and need to binge? And being able to connect back to the inner child has helped me tremendously in so many ways in my life.
Watch how the inner child would like to use the back end of the pencil called the eraser to basically erase almost everything. It does not want to care beyond a few moments about any trauma, loss, perception. It does not want to care about any of it. It only wants to care about its movement towards joy and abundance. And that's the human spirit. That's where we're all supposed to be. Doesn't mean we don't have moments of sadness and wanting to kick things and whatever and all the stuff. We're supposed to have all of that. It's just that our awareness is supposed to be aware, yeah, but I am abundant. It's supposed to
Mhm.
like know that offhand, like easily, like not having to fake that it knows it, but just it knows it. And that's what the kid knew. So this is all conditioning again that our parents gave us. From age 0 to 3, everything was a question. Is the baby okay? Are you hungry? Do you need a kiss? Did you get a boo-boo? Whatever, right? You want to ride your bike, your friend, you want all those things. By the time we reached 4, 5, and 6, they started telling us accidentally more things than they asked of us. So, or whatever that ratio was, it started to ratio away. And that one stupid little thing disorganized us generators, along with everything else, by the way. The marketing, the advertising, the manifesting conditioning, it's all of that. But it was really primarily this one aspect, the movement from strictly asking and abiding by, not just asking, but abiding by, from that to telling us. So,
Wow.
oops,
I do
oopsie.
have a question though. I wonder if in any way on my human design chart, is there anything that is related or that you see? I was born with actually I wasn't born with a disability, but during my birth, I had my right shoulder completely had to be pulled out and dislocated.
Mm-hmm,
I have a condition that is called Erb's palsy. So my right arm is significantly smaller and isn't functioning as well as my left.
mm-hmm.
Just wondering if that is in something in any way that is.
No, other than the alignment with your strategy and authority is what guarantees that whatever that injury in you is really supposed to operate like is gonna now to get in tune. Just again, we'll picture it like the perfection of the kid. If the kid had that little injury, it would sort of know how to favor it in order for it to mend or do whatever or to live with it. It would learn, and that's strategy and authority is the biggest key for everyone as it relates to anything in the body, all of it, even things that are outside of your control, like that. It's not a birth defect. It's just the way the cookie crumbled that time, because every birth is hard. Both my children, when they were born, I was like, what? Does it put itself back into shape? You know what I mean? Because it's not like that. It's uncommon. Like it never.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to speak to the eating thing because you're the great feeder of people when they allow it. And then the great either binger or stayer away from the food. You do one or the other.
Yeah.
This is
I was also a caterer for 15 years.
See, yeah, that's what. So the
I
channel of
closed
community,
my catering business too.
yeah, this channel of community that's 3740 in your body graph. It goes from the ego, it defines your ego, and it goes down to the solar plex. This channel of community and all this ego activation is the 21 needs to control its surroundings. The 26 wants to spit out the word. It wants to transmit a message, and it's got this beautiful ego that can roar. It loves to roar when the timing is right. By the way, you don't brag enough. When I say brag, it's like you're wicked important and you're wicked powerful. And so every time you do something really good, you got to get used to patting yourself on the back in an egolicious way, a nine-centered egolicious way instead of delicious. I just made that up. Way that feels good to you and gets rid of that conditioning that the spiritual would put on us that ego is bad. Every time your ego roars, it's supposed to be good for everyone else serendipitously, one way, shape, or form, because it's as yourself. It's not about bragging and making other people feel bad. That's the ugly ego, that we see. But that's not us anymore. Um, you're familiar, I assume, with the seven-centered chakra system, right?
Yes, of course.
Well, look up the center of this body graph. If you include that ego, there's seven centers there. The old chakra centers, the old chakra system from the Hindu Brahmins is encoded inside this enhanced form because now there's nine centers. If you just look at it, it looks like it's spread out, the whole body graph, our awareness with it to embody less of a yang straight line and more of a yin, something filled out. Do you see that?
I
Meaning
do.
right up the center would be the yang, the seven centered. And then when you add in the two brown centers on the left, it's as if we added the yin and space. It's basically space to grow life,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
Many other things. And that's what's happening in our species. Our nine-centered form is designed to know how to commune with one another throughout the whole planet, and quite easily, like literally. Our programming is simply if the forces that are such losers would allow it and facilitate it, we would be there, the whole planet. Wouldn't hardly a care in the world about power and so forth, like not much. And this ego center of yours that I'm talking about has all of these powers in it that want to feel good about having provided something and loves to do the work, and the catering only ever felt good until the people didn't appreciate you. And when you were appreciated, you go the extra distance. Where's the generator? She's still here. It's past midnight. I know, but they love me and they're loving it, and and the tips are good, hopefully as well. But you have the energy for it. You
Yeah,
know those kind. Actually, as a caterer, you know those rooms. When the room sucked, your energy went down with it. Is that true?
yes, very much.
None of these things are a mental concept or a mental construct. Each mechanic and the confusion and the working it out and the dying to break through and the waiting for the timing and the feeling good or not and the tension that brings depth, all of these things are born from the intelligence of our chemistry as a whole. Do you want me to say that again?
Yes, please.
All of these things are born from our chemistry as a whole, this holistic unit, including the brain, every last thing, our hair, all of it is what gives us the initial wisdom that is the truth. It speaks, it's intelligent, and it's so intelligent that when the mind picks it up, it can translate it into pictures and images and words and books and movies and poems and music and conversation and on and on and on. Our favorite thing in the world, to commune, you know, at our pace. So moving on to the eating thing, not only did you feed people, you would have these incredible up and down. I'm looking at your emotional definition. So just to prepare you, you defined emotionally 3 separate times, and that's a huge deal in a generator form. That is the 1955, which goes from the root center down at the bottom, and it goes up to the right to the gate 55, the gate of spirit and abundance, and the feeling of abundance or the feeling of the lack of abundance, which has been the roller coaster ride of your life, essentially. Because your mind would grab a hold of that and be confused and feel oppressed and then not know the right timing and then think it had to do something in order to cure the melancholy and the sadness of the emptiness. Gate 55 speaks to emptiness or not. Is that hard to hear?
Um,
It
it's
isn't, is
very
it?
hard. No, it is very hard to hear.
But in
There's
a
a lot
way,
of things about the past that are hard to hear. It's just bringing you back all over again.
good, good, because you don't want to have to care about any of it. This melancholy was simply a chemistry to guarantee you got smarter.
Oh, yeah.
That's all it was ever. And because we're generators and we have this sort of dumb as rocks starting way, which just says, I don't know until I'm in response, beautifully dumb as rocks. I should pick that's a guy way of saying it. But I mean, it is gorgeous in its innocence. It's innocence. That's what it is. In its generative innocence, it doesn't know until it's responding. And our mind tortures our body and it says, but I need to know. I need to stop this confusion. I need to break through this idea. I need to get this insight into action. No can do. That's not your job. Your job is to be the right timing when suddenly everything suddenly falls into action. you know, your voice didn't know, your voice never lost track or lost track of the timing of what to say when you're in the middle of a busy catering and you're the boss because you're the king of that freaking thing. You know what I mean? And everyone looks to you, period. You're the authority, period. And now that tension is playing some pretty fine music on all those tension strings of the piano. And now it's gorgeous because you tensed it all into one bridge and boom, now it plays. You're always the player of the depth. That's why I keep going to it. The struggle through the purpose, the provoking of the life, the feeling of the spirit that goes up and down through hope and pain. And it comes back to, I want to fill this. I want to fill it up again. I keep filling up my depth. You'll know your depth is right when you stop struggling to care about the stuff the 4-year-old would like you to contract with them in as much as to forget about it. When I say forget about it, relegate it is the better word. Relegate, take it. You can't forget. You can't forget. Mind never forgets. It's
Yeah.
perfect that way. But relegate it. Practice relegating it. Hear yourself say, I don't think I even want to care about this. Let this, I don't think I even want to care about this thing be a mantra that just comes out like as a knee-jerk reaction. So practice it maybe even in a mirror a couple times. I
Sometimes
don't
I just literally imagine that I'm pulling a thought from my head, like
there.
physically, just
Perfect.
removing it. It doesn't serve me. It's not who I am. It doesn't belong to me.
A beautiful little action shows up that helps accentuate the mantra, the words we just said. Because, honey, these words are spells. That I thought that was a joke the first time someone told me that, and I was like, "Oh, come on, that's not true." They are. We are
They are.
constantly spelling and wording our existence. It's the words and the spelling and the spells literally manifest the existence. They're at the beginning of it. But you have and here's you under all this pressure, meaning the pressure is there and you just sort of live with it to manifest through an emotional lens. The next definition you have, so just to finish that, 39 and 55 is a design of moving through moods. Moods up, moods down, all things mood. And look at mood as if it were a hyper rainbow with every little shade of possible color from the deep purple up to the dark red and through the whole rainbow. Picture moods as that. All these different colors, all 10 trillion of them. And here you are moving through all of these moods. You're designed to move through them. And what if you were a kid and your mom knew to tell you, it was a little bit like RoboCop's eye. I was just scanning back and forth, waiting to get more intelligent. It's a lot like it's looking at moods movement And in the movement of that mood up and down, the little kid kept coming to the new understanding of things, the new sort of realization that would start to make sense, the making sense of things to where it's like it gets pretty clear. And it kept doing this in 2-minute increments and 5-minute increments, right? The kid did, because a
Yeah.
kid lived in kid years, dog years in a way. Now we as adults, it takes much longer. And it's emotional wave that guarantees that chemistry brings you down into sadness, despair, overeating, undereating, self-destructiveness, stupid, just going within, staying there too long, thinking you're there too long, not knowing if you're there too long. Have you noticed every one of these moments you've gone down, you come back up? When have you
Yes.
noticed? What's that all about? Why is that?
I've always had this mantra that like I've been dropped down, or I've dropped myself so many times, but I always get it back up. I've
Right.
always lifted my head above the water again and again and again and again and again.
Now, the mantra helps your brain have the words to be able to tell me what you just told me, right? The personality consciousness, this thing that rides along with us that sees and experiences the life, but it's still the chemistry that's doing that. And so God doesn't make any mistakes, is the way I like to say it. So that means the chemistry is perfect. Every time you go down, it guarantees you become more emotionally intelligent, more emotionally aware, resilient, able to share that and empower others, able to watch how mood will propel you to rest and then to get back out again. And you can actually watch it and obey it like road signs. And that it's such an intense chemistry that it's like you just have to realize it is just chemistry, no different than, you know, women always understand this. You guys started a monthly cycle when you were young teens, right? A young girl did it, nervous, you figure it out. A few months later, you're an old pro at it, right? That's because you got used to the chemistry and because people made you aware. Now I'm making you aware of this chemistry. It's got a long arc on it sometimes, like it can take days and weeks for a thing to go. But as soon as the new mantra starts coming in, as soon as the melancholy and the sadness hits, you see it coming, is the point of all this. It's like, oh my God, I'm starting to go down. I can't tell. The confusion factory goes to work. You can't tell if you're in the right timing with things. Suddenly you start to fear the inadequacy of moments that's not true and it's not you. Caution comes in. You don't talk, you don't lead, you don't influence, you don't break through, and down you go. Every time that happens, you'd be like, oh my God, I've neglected something and I'm about to get so much more intelligent than I ever could have had I not had this process. And you're in that college time between 40 and 50 that it won't take you but a couple of months from now to see that, oh my God, I am riding this thing, even though I don't fully understand it yet. And then a few months after that, you'll come to so much more clarity. It guarantees you go through a human awareness process called emotional clarity. We have awareness in us, right? Our mind is aware that it measures and says stuff, right? We have a mind. We know that we're aware that we can figure stuff out, right?
Hmm.
Mental stuff, and we can hold on to memory over all of time. We're aware. We can juxtapose concepts and all this stuff. That's an awareness. The fish doesn't have that. I'm pretty sure most birds don't have mostly that. And I don't know any animals except us that got it the way we got it. I mean, we got it in spades. Okay. It's unique. It's a thing. It's an awareness. Um, we also have this immediate awareness, right? That thing that makes us survive. Duck, jump, kill it, run. You know what I mean? Swerve, stop. Right? This immediate splenic awareness. I'm sick. Let me do all these things for myself. And it just becomes aware of its survival. That's the spleen down here where she's showing. But this is the third awareness. And the reason your life is so richly complicated towards the good, the more you allow it, richly complicated towards the good, by the way. That's meant to sound sexy over time. It is richly complicated towards the good. Yeah, that you'll see is that ultimately this third awareness, you have all three awarenesses defined. There's only three, you got them all. This is no, I'm a longer slope. The monkey mind works all the time. It holds on to things over all of time, but it doesn't know what the hell it's doing. Sometimes it figures shit out. Boom. The spleen on the left that says, hey, I'll do this, I'll do that. I'm a perfected form. I feel fear. I don't feel fear. Fear makes me intelligent. Da 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 da. I survive. And an emotional intelligence that gives us the juice. Hey, I'm pretty clear on what it's all for. It gives us you're a struggler and a fighter for purpose. Even though you don't have a gate 28, it doesn't matter. This 38 and 39 in the first line on the right-hand side of your personality, of your incarnation cross says, I struggle, I fight, I provoke, I go in, and sometimes I go back out, whatever it takes to provoke the spirit and know I fight for a purpose, struggle, fight, move, maneuver. Basically, 38-1 guarantees you stubbornly hold a position that does not relinquish its own self to the other. That's what 38 does, and it becomes even deaf to the other. Gate 38 is off the bottom of your spleen, by the way, and it's part of your incarnation cross. It guarantees that you're like a fighter for your own purpose. That you don't mind the struggle so much, and you don't mind coming out swinging. I'm using fighter analogies, but it's not swinging literally. It's like at the subject matter, at this piece of my life. Let's come out. Let's kill this thing. Let's do it. Let's do something. That's what 38's dying to do. And in the book, 38 line 1 is called qualification, this tempering of opposition. Because 38 is also called not just the fighter, but the gate of opposition. So sometimes people say something and you oppose that.
Yes.
You oppose tons of stuff.
Okay.
So are you currently have a boyfriend or anyone in your life currently? A little bit, a lot of it, not anything like that yet.
No.
Okay, so now you get to start to know your checklist to qualify whoever's next, right? I'm not even kidding. You make them measure up. It's like, well, I'm sort of like this. I'm going to see if you like that.
It
Because if
just
you,
ended, so yeah, like it's
yeah, he didn't know that he had to like certain things. You didn't know stuff about him. Suddenly you start to not care, and then it just fizzles out like every relationship. But until we enter into them as ourselves, and then they never fizzle out quite the same or at all. So, but back to this emotion. So here's the struggler, the fighter, the person that brings a form of obstruction and a form of opposition to the plane. It has to bring it, and it brings it empathetically. It's not like you just come out swinging at everybody, but as a responder, as a generator, it's in response. Out comes the fighter and the person that is going to both oppose and provoke at the same time. And your sense of provocation comes through inaction. What happened to Effie? She stopped. We don't know. She's not saying anything. It's literally the type of obstruction that just won't engage. But it sort of knows the timing and it gets ready to re-engage. It's always working between no, no, okay, yeah. No, no, yeah, okay. Does that sound familiar?
yeah.
Okay, I notice you're smiling at that one. That's funny.
It's hearing a lot of things about yourself, and it's opening your eyes even more. And I've already been.
Yeah, there can be no judgment on all this. All this stuff is
No,
perfect.
no, yeah.
All the stuff that we think sucks, like 99.9% of it really doesn't. It's actually just fine. It's just fine. You'll see over time that most stuff just ends up not mattering. In relationships, especially. That's what it'll be. You'll suddenly have an ease with a thing, and whatever annoyed you before just annoys you less.
Yes.
It didn't matter
You
next
don't
to
care
awesome.
as much.
Say it again.
You don't care as much.
Right. Back to this emotional wave, though, so we can, because I want to sort of conclude this with this emotional wave. I could talk about so many other things, but I want you to you now understand you've got to spot the gap between the truth from the kid and the delay into the mind, who is who you're not. Your mind never knows what's true. We've learned that. We've learned a couple other things. I was pointing out the throat. I said a bunch of profound things about the throat. You'll go back and see. I pointed out your ego willpower. We love this thing. And I pointed out this abstraction process that breaks through in your mind. Um, Back to the emotional thing, since it's defined three separate ways, you have three separate waves. You have a wave that goes up and down, that spikes. It just suddenly shows up great, and it suddenly shows up down. And then you have an emotional wave process that ratchets a little bit depending upon the support or not and the sensitivity or not of the other. Very much related to the other. And yes, those are times when you can say it's their fault. It's really not. It's still your emotional wave, but um, in communion, you can talk that through more intelligently, like awake people when that happens. But it ratchets until it finally blows up, or it ratchets and it ratchets until it finally makes sense of the thing enough to have a clarity that it's not going to blow up at that. It's just not going to do it anymore. No go, not going to do it. Or this is great. I'm clear. No, I love this. I'm here. I'm in. 1, 2, 3, go. That would be you on the, on the lighter side of the nicer side of that. So what ends up happening is with three different waves, knowing that the emotional solar plexus is an awareness that can only come to clarity through the act of sadness and melancholy. So I guess I should just put a fine point on that. The clarity only comes through the descent into sadness. Key words for it are
Amen.
sadness, despair, melancholy, lowness and down. Just and again, the child would have just understood it as I don't feel good. I'm down. You know, but it doesn't stay there very long because its little generative self constantly pushed it towards its joy. Its joy is simply that which lights you up and you're satisfied with. It feels a deep satisfaction. You love it. That's our way. The generative way is to like, yeah, we freaking love it. And so we do it. Then you have the energy until you sap that energy by not recognizing that to go down is not only mandatory, but you were born with it. You can't help it. It will always be there. And it's wicked freaking sexy when it comes back up. And everyone wants to be around it. And you're always able to break through the aura of the other. And half the time, if you go out into the world, which you apparently need to get out, you're a triple split, so you need to go out in the world a ton just to go here and there. And wherever you go, there's always some boy staring at you somewhere that you got to shoo them off because of all this emotional, supportive, seductive um, definition. The emotional solar plexus is where the love affair takes flight. It could never have happened in the mind, and the spleen doesn't even know. It's just survival. The emotional solar plex gives humanity the awareness to write a love novel and or to read it and to do what you did. It's constantly pushing us towards the realization that we're clear that love is the only way. So let's get about the business of being that. I mean, that really answers everything. And so, but that's a very profound clarity to come to. We ask a lot of humanity to get there. And the only way to get there is to
It's through
understand this way,
love.
live it out, hope to pain and back again. On the upside of your wave, when you're feeling good, you're out in the world more, you are intoxicating in your own way. People do like to be around you, so much so that you don't even know why half the time, by the way. You're like, come on, man, maybe, because you're a right angle person, so you're still totally self-absorbed. Agree to make a deal with yourself that you are a self-absorbed generator and you're supposed to be. It doesn't mean you're bad or selfish or rude. It just means you're not always listening because you're busy with yourself. That's us generators. That's what we do. And you're supposed to be that way. So going through hope and pain and letting it be an experiment that you watch it and it sows. And sometimes it's a little bit, right? Sometimes it'll just be like a little bit, and sometimes it's a medium amount. Sometimes it throws your day off and sometimes you can't do anything and then back again to not that. You watch the regularity at which this thing always comes back so you can see, God damn, like a fishing hook into the water. I keep throwing it in and I keep pulling out a fish and I've been missing it. Not always. You've been seeing it more as you've attuned yourself and advance, as we all do. That's what I love about growing old. Yeah, so I wouldn't trade that thing unless I could keep all of this, by the way.
Yeah.
no way. But I love getting old and smart, man. We've become smart as, I can't say the word because it's a big fat swear.
Something that really resonates with me with everything you just said is that I find that more and more, instead of fighting uh, the sadness or the loneliness or the down, I
Mhm.
just surrender to it. I
That's
just
what
surrender to it. I just allow it to be.
I do.
And I actually sometimes
Enjoy it.
allow myself to fall in love with those like really call them bad times or whatever. And I've stopped fighting it.
The conditioning of the world told us that sadness is bad. That's
Hmm.
just one stupid, simple concept that is ubiquitous, right? It's everywhere. When you're sad, what do people do? Oh, honey, what's wrong? The sadness doesn't have an answer, it has a process. And then the process will give you a lot of answer upon clarity. And clarity simply is an emotional wave over time. So it's
Yeah.
up and down through time. So it's the process of becoming emotionally aware in an up and down cyclical thing over time. When you get down, you're going to get smarter. And if your parents knew to tell you that when you were 4, oh, honey, no, that's perfect. No, nothing went really wrong. You're about to get smarter. This makes you more intelligent, sweetie. You get to get more beauty out of it. Mom would have known what to say. I don't know what the words would have been, but she would have known. If she could have instilled that in you or dad or whoever when you were little, you wouldn't care. Sorry to make that sound light of that. Some of this stuff gets funny after a while when you really see it. But you would, just like I promised you, you don't want to. The proof of that is, had you known all this moving forward from way back then, moving forward to now, 90% of it you wouldn't care. You'd be like, oh my God, all these things happened, but they really didn't. But here I am now. Things are, you just wouldn't want to care or give it weight. You wouldn't want to give it much weight. So
Yeah.
you're this generator that has this cross of tension, that has a 1-3 profile, that needs to investigate and bump into things, that is a struggling and determined trial of errorist, doing trial and error and trying this and that through into perfection, finding out what doesn't work, being in control of all that, always getting back up, that now is going to learn to wait, to articulate, because I can't tell if it's the right timing until I'm lit up. That's going to see that the being lit up is the truth first as a chemistry, independent of concept and mind and thinking and worry. And all of this is going to come together in this beautiful, almost all right arrows of your body graph that is simply open and receptive. Haven't you noticed by now that you constantly always have the answer as a response from a place that you didn't even know where the hell it came from? Tell me about that. Because
Oh,
that's a
I do. I feel that with my kids a lot. Like, I just thought it was,
great source.
yeah.
What do you spot? Like they'll come in with something and suddenly out comes words of your mouth where you didn't know you were going to know how to address that. Is that right?
It's funny when they tell me that, Mommy, you're so smart. I'm like, actually, I call it more experience. I
Great.
always, it's just more experience.
When you're on the cross of tension, especially as a 1-3, we can guarantee that depth is going to be a pursuit for which the struggle fights and provokes, and the spirit gets filled by seeing. Your spirit fills when you can share the depth that you accrue. And as that happens, of course, experience becomes so much of that. And these arrows on your body graph on the top right, them both pointing right, means you have no idea. You're just an open ocean vessel waiting. You're like an ocean of information. Everything keeps pouring in. Dude, if we sat here at all the Great Lakes and everyone took straws, we couldn't fill up the ocean. The ocean's already full. We can just keep putting more in. You are an ocean. Right arrows on this side guarantee an ocean of information will come in, and it just rests there. And that we get mentally confused and exhausted when we think we have to do something about it, like I was saying before with the generator, thinking they have to do, versus waiting for anything else to pull it out of us. And the thing about your definition is the reason I know you get so mentally consumed during the day that can sometimes just sit by itself all day and be delighted, um, is because this channel of abstraction on between the head and the ajna guarantees you'll be giving yourself stuff to pull from. It's like it's its own. It talks to itself. In other words, it's its own fuel and process at the same time. So the rightness of the arrows guarantee that you're not focused on any one thing and you're not trying on any one thing. It's just that when anything asks of you, a person, a sound, an incident, an event, or a mental cognitive thought going through this process of trying to realize something and express, either of that does it. It just pulls from this right ocean. And it's like, oh my God, I know that. Oh my God, I saw it. Yeah, this goes with this. That only enhances the older we get. We pick up speed with that. Technically, by our 80s, we become almost like the Rain Man, this right facing arrow when we let it.
Mm.
Almost. Rain Man was special. I mean, that cat was something else, but it's very much like that. It all goes in and we pull out. So it's all the more reason for you to understand that wait, the generator waits for this rightness to get pulled out of, and it's so powerful that this rightness can go stand before a judge in court, and then it can go do this other thing over there, and it can go do this other thing over there, and it can respond its way through even the most challenging of crazy ass shit. You do that when you don't care and you just allow, and you struggle and get tensed up when you think and try and invent that you'll know. So that is a big surrender. So in the end, this generative life force is guaranteed to give you truth in response, and your emotional wave process is guaranteed to give you clarity over time. I guess the final analysis would be there's no truth in the now as it relates to any decision that you don't know. The emotional being, when I don't know is the answer. I can't tell. How about this one? Your boyfriend or husband would be like, "Well, honey, do you love me?" And here goes the struggle in you that says, "Well, mostly." You can do that. That's true at the time because you're struggling for a clarity. You're fighting for it. And so no big decisions in the now. Do you love me is a great big decision. You know what I mean? That's a big deal. A lot of confusion around that. Don't necessarily want to commit to anything at the moment. Sort of. And if I were your boyfriend, I'd have to say, that's great, honey. Yeah, I get it. Perfect. Perfect. Because that's just how it goes. So have you ever found that you make rash decisions and then sort of regret it a little bit later? Yeah.
Oh, all my life, very impulsive.
It's slowed down by now.
Oh, much.
Now you can know why it's slowed down because you were recognizing intuitively that this process is going on. Now you've got words for it. Oh, I'm a design of achieving clarity through my responsive nature over time. And it's guaranteed going to get pulled out of my rightness as long as I watch it. And I'm now in the experiment of seeing all these things that Danny just pointed out to me. This is great. It is a diagnostic tool. Yeah, I sort of want to stop there, I think.
It's amazing. And I might have a lot more questions by tomorrow.
Did you say might?
For sure.
The thing is, no, we'll have questions, and you should. I don't know if you have my phone number, but just get it, please, and
Yeah, through more.
text. Just text a question. Hey, Danny, this thing, da 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 da. Make it real straight and to the point, so I can respond like a good generator, and we can generate your success and all of that. Please.
Amen. Thank you. Wow.
The spirit is abundant. It wants to be. Let her
Yeah.
rip.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. I'm so
Thank,
happy everything is recorded and I can go back. Oh, hi.
thank you, Effie.
I just had some spicy noodles. So if I'm like panting and my nose is running, it's the spicy noodles.
Well,
But
how did I do? I felt like I meandered along at one point, but I don't know.
you guys are both right mind, right brain. I was like,
See,
I'm sure
you-
their generator sacral is like boop, 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 boop.
100%.
So I'm like, it's good, it's all good.
so funny.
I was gonna say, so this is like a funny side story. So before this series, Effie, we were doing an absolutely nutso thing where we were having 5 different guests come on every single show at the same time.
Oh,
Yeah. It was
poor Danny.
no. Here's the
Love it.
thing.
It's poor these guys,
Danny
not mine.
Danny was not allowed to read their charts because I'm like, if
Oh,
you read everyone's charts, we will be here for a week. Like it's it's just too long. But he'd always be like, "Oh, but I like want to look at their charts." I'm like, "Sorry, no. Like there's too many people. It's 48 different people over a span of 12 weeks. Like that's not happening." So then I'm like, "Ooh, this is where Danny gets to nerd
Look at
out
the dang
one
chart.
on one. Look at a dang chart." So I'm like, "This is
That
perfect." Before
struggle. It's so good. I was like, "What more do I wanna?" And I
I just
couldn't do
want to read
anything
the chart, and
about
I'm
it.
like, okay, Danny, this series you can
oh,
nerd out as much as you want with our guests, and it's making his little
there's
generator self really happy.
so much to learn about it.
Oh, he just
Yeah.
So much,
scratched the surface, by the way.
Yeah.
really.
Oh yeah, that was
It's
just like just to get you started. You know, like when you're trying to learn to ride a bike, that was the initial push. It's like, okay,
Oh, wow.
oh yeah,
Well, I'm sure because there's so much more, and I even have like questions, and now I'm so intrigued about a lot of things. So,
oh
yeah.
yeah.
well,
That's why I was like, Effie, you don't understand. Like, we need to bring this stuff at least to the GTA. Because as far as I know, people are like, "What's human design?" Ugh," and I'm
Oh
like, "What do
yeah,
you
oh yeah.
mean?"
I've before I met you, I did never heard of it.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's slowly gaining momentum. But yeah, I was going to say, Effie, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on and
Thank
guide
you,
us through
thank
that
you.
breathwork journey. Her links are in the chat. I will put them in again for everybody who is wondering. And you could also reach out to her on her Instagram. So you could go find her there. If you're like, yes, I want to use breathwork to start my deconditioning. And now that you saw what Danny said about you, you could even start doing that with your own breathwork
Mhm.
journeys on yourself. So think
Please
of
say
how
the word.
powerful that is.
Say the words. Your open throat is so good at expressing all the hues of life because it's open to all of expression. So it is the expression. So say the stuff. Say the words right out loud, like the sounds you were encouraging us to make. Yep.
Yeah. So amazing. And so next week, friends, we have another wonderful guest coming on. She is a tuning fork specialist.
Mm.
Oh, so yes, I'm very, very excited. And so she is going to take us through her tuning fork journey for next week. So if you've been enjoying the series and you are not following us, go follow us. Tell your friends we're doing this. Also, if you want to take it one step further and support us, we have a wonderful coffee page where you can have access to all these bonus goodies that you get beyond just watching us live or on the replay. So go check that out. So when that little link goes, you're like, what is that? That's your way to be like, I love these guys. Please keep doing what you're doing. So go smash that. And with that, Danny, do you have any parting words before we come back next week and do it all over again?
Don't forget to grab my cell phone and text me with questions. You crazy generator. I love you. This will be amazing, and I will respond.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you
All
guys
right.
so much.
Excellent. Take
Have a
care.
great
Let
You got
me end our stream, friends. See you
thank
later.
you.